Welcome to Haltech Elite NSP Training Part 62. This training tutorial, we're going to be exploring setting up and tuning our flex fuel feature. This allows us to have an ethanol content sensor that's put into our fuel system that allows us to measure the ethanol content, and then we can vary our fuel, spark, boost according to that ethanol content. We have a lot to cover. Let's jump in so we can check this out. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look at setting up and working with our flex fuel based tuning within our Haltech Elite using our NSP software. Now our flex fuel tune allows us to integrate a flex fuel sensor into our Haltech Elite that's going to be registering and reading the amount of ethanol percentage or ethanol content in our fuel system. So if you're on pure petrol fuel, you would have 0% ethanol. If you put in pure ethanol and had no petrol fuel in your fuel system, that'll read approximately 98% because we can't get up to 100. It's just not available. There's always a slight dilution in the ethanol content. So 98 would essentially be the highest that we can buy or purchase from any ethanol available sources. So what we're going to find is that whether we're on pure petrol or pure ethanol or anywhere in between that, we can detect that level of ethanol content in our fuel system with that flex fuel sensor. That allows us to offset both our fuel and our spark timing, and doing that on the fly. So as your ethanol content changes, the Haltech can constantly reindex and recalculate what the proper fuel and spark timing delivery are going to be at any given moment. So it's really, really beneficial to have that flex fuel sensor installed. Now, you don't have to have a flex fuel sensor installed to run your engine on an ethanol fuel. However, there will be not much consistency with your tune unless you have that flex fuel sensor. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're going to the gas pump and that has ethanol at the gas station and you fill up, if you have the littlest bit of petrol fuel in your fuel system and you're putting, let's say, E85 or 85% ethanol fuel in your fuel system, you're going to find that that petrol is going to dilute your ethanol a little bit. So it might be 80% or 78%. In that situation, your fueling delivery to the engine won't be what you would expect at 85%. It's going to be something slightly less. And that's going to mean that you always have a couple percent of fuel delivery that you're going to be essentially over or under delivering to your engine at a given time. You can go in and compensate and try to dial in your main fuel table to deal with that. However, that is not ideal because you don't want to constantly chase and dial your tune on your engine. Once you've calibrated your main VE table and you have everything sorted out, you really should have a hands-off approach. That's what the flex fuel sensor is going to allow us to do. We don't have to constantly hawkeye our ethanol percent and then go in and adjust our fueling table or the VE table here, airflow-based table. It will allow us to just background compensate for that ethanol percentage. So the difference, just so we're aware of this, the difference between 0% ethanol and 85% is going to be an approximately 34% more fuel delivery, going from pure petrol to 85% ethanol. There's about a 34% increase in injector pulse width in fuel flow rate needed to keep the engine running at the same target lambda target air fuel ratio. So anywhere between 0 to 85%, we are able to have that compensation, that percentage multiplier essentially, compensate it and doing it on the fly. And using that flex fuel sensor, again, we have this kind of hands-off approach, makes things much, much more simplistic than trying to guess at what the exact ethanol blend is going to be and then trying to compensate that in here to your Haltech. Now, there's actually two ways that we can integrate working with a flex fuel based control with our elites. I'm going to show the airflow based strategy here first. So this would be if your mass airflow or your speed density volumetric efficiency based tuning, which is probably the two more common that we'll be choosing. We have to go about things one way. If your fuel flow rate or injection time based, you have to go about implementing things in a different manner for our flex fuel control. Ultimately, we can still achieve the same level of consistency with either option, but they will be more specific. Again, one to an airflow-based model, one to an injection time-based model. So injection time-based is going to be injection time or fuel flow rate. Airflow-based is mass airflow or speed density VE-based. All right, let's jump in here. Let's first talk about how we can integrate our flex fuel control for an airflow-based model. We're going to go through the setup of our flex fuel sensor, making sure we have all it configured and dialed in. And then we're going to go through some of the background settings that have to be checked on that are going to be right. And then I'll show you how the fueling side of our flex fuel modeling works incredibly simple. And then we'll go through setting up our spark timing compensation and the other compensation tables associated to our flex fuel base control. All right, let's jump in here and let's first take a look at setting up this flex fuel sensor. So I'm in my flex fuel window here, or tab. If you don't have this already open in your software, you may have to go to add new page and grab it from our course directory. It's already populated and set up for you. The next thing we're gonna have to do, move from our flex fuel tuning tab, going into main and going under our navigation tree here. We're gonna go into our sensors, and we first have to configure our flex fuel sensor that we've added into our fuel system. Now you can add the flex fuel sensor on the return line, or you can add it on the feed line. I prefer to add it on the feed line so you have an instantaneous reading of your ethanol content at any given time. This is Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.